Wait, are we too close?
Are we too close?
No, I just don't want to like. Hey, everybody. Welcome back. We saw Roma.
Ra ra Roma Roma ma ga ga ooh la la. Want your bad romance?
Is that an actual lyric?
Dude, Lady Gaga, Bad Romance.
For me, this is going to be an extremely positive review. We haven't really shared our thoughts on it too deeply yet, so this is kind of like a...
I just watched it literally like 30 seconds ago.
Yeah, he just watched it, yeah. So, yeah, this is going to be an interesting review. Let's talk about it. What did you think?
So, newest movie by Alfonso
Cuarón.
Cuarón.
Pretty sure it's Cuarón.
Cuarón!
I think. I'll have to read.
You're probably right. You're the Mexican one. And he is very amazing and hot and sexy. He directed Harry Potter, which you all know. You all know that one. He directed Children of Men, which I think all children are some men in some form, so kind of a stupid title. He directed Y Tu Mama Tambien, which is very sexy and with young boys, so if you like young boys having sex, I do, so.
Wow, okay.
Gravity with George Clooney. Won a ton of Oscars, and so that brings us here to Roma, a Netflix film that has been getting a ton of attention, critically, and audience-wise as well.
Yeah, surprisingly. Because I feel like this is pretty inaccessible.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if this is exactly like a Netflix film, per se.
Really?
I think it was just a foreign film that was brought onto Netflix because...
Oh, you mean it wasn't originally a Netflix film?
Yes, it was originally a Netflix film. But
it's definitely for Netflix, though.
Oh, yeah.
Roma. About this... they're in Mexico, right? Yeah.
I think so.
They're in Mexico. And it's about this maid who works for this very large, not fat, but numerous children family.
Rich family, too.
Yeah, they're very rich, they're very wealthy, they're the light-skinned Mexicans, so they get all the Gucci stuff, whatever. Follows probably the most significant part of her life at this point, and the most significant part of the family's life as well, which creates an interesting parallel throughout the movie.
Right.
The movie's about 2 hours, 15 minutes long, and it's in black and white.
Which probably is symbolic for something. We were kind of discussing this a little bit after we watched the film, and just discussing it for literally a minute, we just caught so many things that we didn't even think about before.
Well, you didn't think about it. I thought about it.
Okay, yeah, no. I mean, this film was so perfectly and expertly crafted. It's just, it's truly like an incredible sight to see, really. And, this film does have one kind of issue that I have with it, which ends up kind of bringing it down, not being a perfect score for me personally. But overall, I mean, I think it's a must-see for this year, and I think it's one of Alfonso's best movies. And he has a great library, but I think it's I wouldn't say it's his best, but it's probably second place for me. I think Children of Men is still up there. But overall, incredible. So yeah, what would your summary be about it?
I thought it was pretty good, decent. It's in black and white, which sets the tone perfectly for the whole movie. On top of being, a good cinematic device to help represent themes of the story. It just makes everything seem so kind of drab, but also kind of beautiful as well. Because black and white can work in that way, where it makes a movie look better than it would be in color. It kind of adds a lot of character to it. So overall, I think that the movie, there's a lot to look for in it. There's a lot to dissect. But I think the movie itself, when I think about it, as a story and as a product of entertainment... Yeah, I'm kind of positive, but I'm kind of just middle of the road a little bit.
So I guess now we can probably move to spoilers. Because I think overall I would highly recommend this. I'm sure you would still recommend it. So, spoiler alert.
Everyone dies.
I was telling Gavin before this, I literally have never cried this hard during a movie in my life. The birth scene and the scene where the family's all hunched up close together on the shore of the beach, that was incredible. And I'm sure it had some personal connection with me. But, either way, it was directed so masterfully. You can hand it to the director and the incredible performances, the shots. it was very Akira Kurosawa influenced, where one layer, the top layer is something going on there, and then the back layer there's also something going on. Each layer matters, which I really loved because just looking at stills for this movie, I mean, it's
Yeah.
super
I
entertaining.
thought the same thing. I thought, and Alfonso Cuarón did. He was the director of cinematography as well, so that was kind of interesting. The main sort of points of the movie that are supposed to be really depressing, I guess you could call them like climaxes almost.
Yeah, definitely.
They're placed perfectly in the movie. It's like the first one is kind of a little bit more than halfway, a little bit, and then the next one's right at the end. So it accomplishes this way of storytelling where you don't get fatigued from these events. A lot of movies try to overkill it. They're like, we need to make this movie depressing, so let's just keep hitting it hard for the audience,
Yeah.
and that dilutes the overall emotion that's trying to be portrayed in the movie. This one, it it does a lot with so little, and it knows how to work with so little and be creative within that space. So that's that.
Yeah.
This is something I've actually not seen in many movies, if not like literally no movies. A lot of 360 shots, as if the camera is just on a tripod and they're just spinning it and there's no crew or anything, which does really eliminate the Hollywood movie kind of aspect of the film. And it kind of makes it feel almost like a book. Like you're kind of seeing this movie through your own imagination versus a camera lens, which is kind of nice. I want to steal that. I'm going to steal that in one of our movies to do a 360 shot. I think it's really interesting. It reminded me of Wes Anderson.
For sure.
In the sense that all the characters and the setting is like a dollhouse where everything's in place and supposed to move in a certain way.
For discussion, I mean, we had a lot of stuff, as I said before, we talked about after. I think one of the big things that we were discussing was the fact that there's a lot of like disasters that happen at specific points in the movie, and they seem almost placed on purpose. For example, the earthquake in the hospital in the beginning. There was the fire during New Year's. The riot when she was buying the crib, and then the miscarriage, which was like, I guess, the big finale. Was there anything I missed there?
Well, to connect those events, the fire took place during Cleo. Cleo is the maid's name. She had like a really bad night that night. Remember?
Yeah.
She wanted to drink, but she was pregnant, and then someone bumped into her and she spilled a drink, and her glass broke, and then the fire happened. When the riots happened, there's a huge riot thing, and there's a lot of people killed, and it's catastrophic. Her water breaks when she gives birth to her baby, and then her baby is what do you call it, stillborn, right? And then when the mother finds out, this is so much spoiler. We're just ruining the whole movie.
We did say spoilers.
Yeah, when the mother finds out that her husband is cheating on her, that's when the earthquake happens. So it's like the world is reacting naturally to events that are happening socially, which is kind of interesting. And there's definitely some symbolism with fire and quakes and protests. So it would take probably a week or two to figure these things out on your own. Maybe you could look it up and just cheat. But there's a ton of layering in the story to help you kind of understand what's going on in the characters' minds.
Yeah, and then something else that I kind of just realized at the end of the movie was this was actually a movie about family.
Yeah.
The big thing about this, the driving point was family, which I didn't even really you don't notice it really until the very end, which I really liked. Normally with movies you can kind of see where it's going, at least theme wise, and you're gonna be like, okay, this is gonna be the final thing. I get it. At least for me, I didn't see it until the very end because you're kind of following one specific character, and sure the family's in the background, but there's also other events that are happening.
Yeah, I noticed that earlier on in the movie. Because it's a director trademark for him. For instance, Harry Potter, Prisoner of Azkaban. It's his relationship with Sirius and his parents and stuff like that. Okay. That's the main focus. And I liked how it's realized at the end the importance of family in terms of the movie itself. Throughout the story, though, the characters are constantly judging each other for their own roles. The husband has problems with the maid and the children and the wife, and then the wife has problems being a wife. The maid has problems being a maid. She feels kind of, she has to be submissive, and she feels kind of oppressed in terms of the unit that they're in. The children have problems because some are older and some are younger, some are boys, some are girls. And at the end, there's this realization point that they all kind of need to fill in their roles in order to make this work, but sometimes it just doesn't work, which is what they learn. It's kind of a nice realistic theme there, where it's sometimes things just don't work out, but it doesn't mean that they can't make it work out. You know? And that was kind of a nice little thing that they had going on, is that, the family at first were being kind of distant and fighting a lot because of how different they were. But then at the end, they kind of realized that their differences really matter in the grand scheme of things, and that they have to work together in order to make their unit work.
Mm.
So that was really interesting how they did that at the end. It all ties together.
Yeah. I also liked what was his name?
Fermis or something.
Something like that. Well,
the maid's Cleo's
Cleo's
boyfriend,
mate
kinda?
type,
Yeah,
spouse, somewhat spouse in the film.
her baby daddy.
There we go,
Boom.
baby daddy. He was also a great character. I thought he was like he was actually kind of charismatic in the beginning.
Yeah, he was
kind
kind
of
of
like a funny, especially when he was doing the
thing
skills
naked.
naked. It was
His
pretty
penis. Literally, there's a shot where he's doing martial arts and his head doesn't even show up. It's just his body and his dick, which is kind of funny.
It was, but and then you kind of learn to hate him, and you're just like, man, this guy is really a dick. One thing that I wasn't sure about was his martial arts thing like a cult or something? Was that what they were training for? Or because he never explained it. I remember Cleo was like, hey, is this for like the Olympics? And he's like, something like that. It was kind of sketchy. And then you see him later during the riots, he with holding the pistol up to her, and then it looked like she was coming to the realization that, oh, maybe this wasn't the Olympics after all. That were my thoughts on it. It could have been something else. I could just be thinking too deeply.
I think definitely the martial arts thing, because the guys who were in the protests were the martial arts guys.
Right.
Yeah, I think that it just, and they're all men. That's another thing.
Mm-hmm.
There's a big separation between men and women in this.
Which you brought up a good point about the black and white.
Yeah, it was the black and white, the movie, men and women, stuff like that. Symbol. Woohoo! But the movie chooses to take on the point of view of the women and portray the men as really evil. But at the beginning, they are likable. The first 30 minutes, the husband seems like a very smart, kind of responsible doctor guy. Definitely. And it's like, oh, I've got to go away, and I'm sorry, family. I got to work for you guys. I got to give you this nice house. The maid's boyfriend is very nice and warm and stuff. And then immediately when either the kids are brought in the situation or the fact that Cleo's pregnant, they immediately kind of leave.
Yeah.
Which is, that's another kind of symbolic thing. All the men leave once the children are kind of brought up.
Yeah.
As if, children are problems and women are kind of left behind to take care of them, is kind of what the movie, I felt like it was saying somewhat.
Yeah, which I would be very interested to see what the intention was, what his intention from the beginning was with that theme. And also how it plays into the fact that this is taking place back, I think, the 1970s in Mexico.
1971.
Which also, that's got to play a part in this. I mean, the exact setting, I feel like, was chosen specifically for this, this story to be told.
I think it has something to do with actually the music, I noticed. Because there is no music in this whole movie, except for what plays on the radio. And the children have frequent discussions about what they want to play on the radio.
That's right.
And they spend a lot of time in the movie on that. So that's definitely hiding something in terms of revealing more about the story. The youngest child is one of the most interesting characters in the whole movie. First off, he's so cute and sweet and kind to everyone in the movie. He's kind of the neutral force. He's not really leaning one way or another on anyone's side. And he says throughout the movie, like 3 times or something like that, in his other life, in his previous life, he was this and he was that. So there's a lot of allusions to death and dying and maybe even being reborn, kind of as if reincarnation is this natural cycle. Right. So that was pretty interesting how they included that, and there was one that was pretty clear where they're at the beach and he says, in my past life I was a sailor, but then I drowned at sea. And then they have the scene where the kids almost drown. One that confused me though is that he says, I think it was when they went on vacation for the first time, that he was a pilot and he died crashing. I was confused on the relevance to that one. Now that I think about it, it's probably the dad.
What do you mean?
Because he flew away, remember?
Oh.
Maybe he's saying that the dad destroyed his life. His own life. The dad destroyed his own life.
Or maybe
by-
the family as a whole, I think. Because that's kind of what would happen. The mom... I remember the mom would have these outbursts on Cleo, which were pretty uncharacteristic.
Yeah.
Because she was very nice to her most of the movie, and then I was like, damn, she's kind of like pretty... So it was kind of breaking the family apart. And then I think near the end she comes to a realization. But, yeah, I mean, we said it. There's so much to dissect in this movie. That's why I appreciate it so much. And I'm for sure... I'm definitely going to rewatch it. I think I mentioned I had one flaw with this film earlier. My one flaw is that the first half is pretty slow. It is slow for a reason, and I know the reason is because it's building up to I guess the climax of the film, and it does it expertly because it really gets you invested in Cleo's life and everything, and it has to place these things in specific places so the film can kind of go somewhere, you know. But at the same time, it was just very challenging, I think. Which, I mean, who knows? If I keep watching this film, I might like just kind of remove that con. But for now, I do think that it was a bit of a flaw, and I'm sure it was intentional though.
Some problems I have with the movie is that it is, like we said before, challenging. But for me, it's challenging in the way that it's so stiff and just still. It's hard to connect with a character who's so cold throughout the whole movie. Not to say that she's cold personality wise, but I mean that she shows little emotion throughout the movie. And while a lot of the time less is more, for this movie, I felt like I didn't get too much into her personal life as much as I would have liked to, and maybe things that she does by herself, despite the movie being so introspective. By the way, kudos to this movie for doing an actual like accurate birth scene. They don't look all teary-eyed and clean right before they give birth, and then they start screaming their fucking life out of them right as the baby's coming out. It's more like what the movie portrays it as. Right. But yeah, overall, really impressed with this one. I would give it a 6 out of 10.
Wow, okay.
But it's just because, there's a lot to dissect, and there's a lot to be interested and excited about, and it was very well made. But I have to kind of distance myself from the layers of storytelling there is and just kind of think of the story itself, and I just don't really think it was that compelling to me. The way it was told was really engaging and everything, but I just wish the story itself and the characters themselves were more lively, and there was just more going on, I guess, in the 2 hour, 15-minute runtime.
I would personally give this a strong 9 out of 10. This was, as I said before, probably one of my favorite films of the year.
Gonna do a year-end list.
Yes, we're gonna do. I slacked off in the beginning of this year, so my list is probably gonna make a lot of you guys angry.
We're just gonna do top 5. I feel like after the top 5,
we'll move on to better. But
can we do a top 5 worst? That'd be kind of funny.
Sure, we'll do top 5 worst.
But we are gonna do year-end, and this one will be on his. So.
We hope you enjoyed the video. We hope you enjoy Roma. Please watch it. It's on Netflix.
What does Roma mean? Is that a word?
So I don't want to sound like an idiot here, but I thought that was what the daughter's name would have been if she was born.
It's not a word in Spanish.
But no, it's not a word in Spanish that I know of.
Okay.
I could also just be butchering my own language here, but it could have been like a city in Mexico. I have no idea. I'm very uneducated with my culture.
Well, there's another symbol we don't know. We gotta figure that shit out.
Exactly.
So,
yeah. Thank you guys. Keep up with our videos. Watch our last
hope you like
two.
his penis in the movie.